This next panel is extremely relevant for this moment and very excited to dive into this content. We are looking at how do you reach the hardest to reach clients? How do you get information to newcomers that is relevant, that is timely, that is sensitive, and sometimes really immediate needs, to meet a really immediate needs. And so this panel will be talking from their perspectives of their respective organizations, how they are going about that, and how technology plays a key role in accessing information for folks who need it immediately. And in some cases, don't want to put any of that personal information in any type of app or technology and want to be anonymous when receiving that information. In addition to this panel, we are going to have a really fun activity where we will engage with some of these tools from these organizations, and you all get to put yourself in the shoes of somebody trying to access some of the information. And we'll see how you do. With that, I'll hand it over to Milan.
With that said, it's worth mentioning Christy and I fought on who would introduce the facilitator of this panel. If that doesn't speak to the caliber of this panel itself. So it's with absolute privilege to introduce Jason Crislip, who is an experienced educator, trainer, and program manager who has worked in the field of refugee resettlement since 2003. As Senior Director of Learning, he oversees Switchboard and other learning initiatives within IRC's resettlement, asylum, and integration programs. Previously, Jason worked abroad for 15 years at the Resettlement Support Center for East Asia, the overseas processing entity in West Africa, and as a Peace Corps volunteer in Ghana. He holds a degree in education from the University of Akron, Ohio.
Thank you. I saw a lot of nods when you mentioned Peace Corps volunteer. Who else is a Peace Corps volunteer? Excellent. Thank you. Thanks for being here. I'm going to start by introducing the panelists one at a time, and then we'll have them sort of go through and give us the elevator pitch of their programs, and then we'll dive into the questions. So I'm going to start down on that side and introduce my colleague, Jenny Lang. She's the Deputy Director of Settle In, which, as you heard yesterday, is a multilingual, multi-platform information services program that delivers accurate, timely, and accessible content to newcomers. She previously led the Cultural Orientation Resource Exchange, where she oversaw training and information initiatives tailored both to newcomers and service providers alike. Jenny has 15 years of experience working with newcomers at organizations including the IRC in Salt Lake City, the Resettlement Support Center in Asia, where she had a job that I used to have, and the Office of Refugee Resettlement. Jenny holds a Master's of Social Work from the University of Utah. Welcome, Jenny.
Thank you.
Next in line, we have Ramel Ojeda, an award-winning bilingual journalist and filmmaker based in New York City. As the senior reporter at Documented, he focuses on topics affecting the Spanish-speaking Latinx immigrant communities in New York City. Ramel is the author of several powerful investigations that Documented has recently published. His work can be seen in Univision, Telemundo, The City, and elsewhere. Ramel holds a master's degree in bilingual journalism with a specialization in documentary filmmaking from Craig Newmark Graduate School of Journalism at CUNY. Thank you. And our last esteemed panelist is April Sonbun. She is the Education, Research, and Innovation Officer at the Airbell Impact Lab, the research and innovation arm at the IRC. In her role, she collaborates with global partners, country teams, and educational units, overseeing project implementation for Apprendia, which we'll hear a lot more about, an AI-driven chatbot, and the Education Innovation Fund. April's career has been centered on fostering partnerships in the nonprofit and corporate sectors, particularly within the realm of education. And prior to joining Airbell, she was on the IRC's Afghan Priority 2 team, managing teams and large-scale projects for organizations such as Scholastic and the Council for Economic Education. She holds a Master's of Public Administration from Columbia University and a Bachelor's from the University of Washington. Thank you. Okay. Let's start by hearing a little more about your specific program. So we'll give the crew your elevator pitch. We've got key terms up behind us that you may be hearing today. Let's go back down to Jenny. What can you tell us about Settle In?
Thanks, Jason. I'm really happy to be here with you all. So a little bit about Settle In. We are a multilingual, multi-platform information services hub for newcomers. We provide important information so that people can make informed decisions about their lives here in the U.S. And a lot of that is through our website, through social media, a mobile app, and a lot of the two-way messaging that you heard from my colleague yesterday. And so this information allows newcomers to take more ownership of their experience, to make decisions independently, and also help support some of the staff and the burden of some of the staff at organizations that are facing a lot of changes right now. So we do all of this through the multiple platforms. We actually started the newcomer provider facing services in 2017 through a website and the mobile app. And that provides a lot of really great introductory information on topics like health, education, employment, rights and responsibilities, U.S. law. And then in 2021, we expanded to include social media, which was came out specifically out of Operation Allies Welcome, and was to combat misinformation, also to provide a really reliable source of information for Afghans directly. And as you may already know, we've then used that successful approach to expand to include Ukrainian, Spanish language, and are soon expanding into Haitian Creole. So I think that's a little bit of the elevator pitch there.
Thank you, Jenny. Ramel, what can you tell us about Documented?
Sure. Super excited to be here on this very hot and humid day. Welcome, everyone. Document.info is a platform that serves the immigrant communities in New York City by providing actionable information that is produced from the input that they give us through our award-winning WhatsApp chat and also our Zendesk platform. And the idea is to empower people with information that can help them know the decisions that are being made as they hire lawyers, as they hire, people to help them out, with the idea that they know each step through the process so that they can learn to navigate the system themselves. We also provide information in 4 languages, Haitian Creole, Spanish, English, and French. And we're trying to grow our audience by also sending newsletters every week with information that allows them to get, free resources, to connect with communities, free summer activities. The idea to help them grow in New York City and make New York their home, which is what they have told us they wanted to do. So again, super excited to talk about this very passionate project that I'm, leading. And yeah, so super excited to be here.
Thank you for that. And April, tell us about Apprendia.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And also, I just want to acknowledge each and every one of you. You guys are doing incredible work. As a refugee and immigrant myself from Laos, it's like I'm coming full circle and meeting the people who are now doing the services, which is incredible. Without you guys, I don't think my parents or my family would have known how to navigate the system when we came to America. So thank you. As Jason had mentioned, I work for the Arabelle Impact Lab, which is the research and innovation arm of the IRC. Our mission is to design, test, and scale life-changing, cost-effective products and services to people affected by conflict and disaster. I sit within the education vertical, so my lens is on last mile learners, kids who are displaced by climate change, war, local conflict, etc. And so the key questions that our team in the research and innovation department are always constantly asking ourselves is, for me, how do we reach these millions of learners, these last mile learners? What can we do to further support teachers who have low resources and have unique set of learners and needs? And what's engaging? What is simple tech that people can use? And what is scalable? what can be adopted by the local government or our local partners, et cetera, so they can continue the great work. And of course, we want to respond cost effectively, I think, and it has to be able to work contextually and meet the needs of our clients. So they are always a part of the process in terms of developing and building things for our clients. And so our signature project is Apprendia, which is an AI-driven chatbot that is built for our clients who have low bandwidth accessibility. And it is a learning journey that, that educators can use to learn about how to teach your kids about disaster relief, how to evacuate during an earthquake, or one of our signature programs that we're currently developing in the DRC and in Nigeria is healing classrooms for trauma-induced children that have gone through a lot. So this bot, or this platform, Apprendia, is a multi-channel platform. It's easy to use. We meet educators where they're at by using messaging platforms such as WhatsApp, SMS, Telegram, Instant Messenger. Is that? Yeah. Facebook Messenger, not Instant Messenger, I was thinking. And and where it's novel is that our content is bite-sized and digestible. It's, our content also approaches the IRC pedagogical practices. And we get insights from the educators ourselves and working with our local partners. And also, it integrates OpenAI as a way for our clients to be able to ask quick questions that they need. And so you're probably wondering, what does education, Apprendia, have to do with refugees and newcomers in the US? Well, I love learning about IRC work, and I've learned a lot about other programs here. And I was talking to a colleague with the budget constraints, the cuts, et cetera, and they're like, we still have to serve our 100,000 plus newcomers. What can we do to bridge the caseworker gap right now? We don't have enough people. And I was like, we have a platform that is cross-functional, and we can build a bot for you to not replace caseworkers, but to complement the caseworkers, to help them fill in the gaps, basic questions about like, what documentation do I need? What is housing? What is my rent agreement? And employment. How do I get a job? How do I write a resume? So very basic information that a bot can help answer, either through a very linear format or by asking the GPT itself that's integrated within a knowledge base that we created, and it pulls the content from there. And so Alma will be released later this fall, mid-August, that's our date, and it will be fluent in Dari, Swahili, Spanish, and English. So that's why I'm here today, is all about Alma.
I love a good acronym. What does ALMA stand for?
Oh my God, I knew you would ask me that.
I know.
It's such a long name. AI for Life Mapping and Assistance. But Alma is a great name too, so that's our persona.
Humanizes it for sure. Thank you.
Thank you for.
I want to go back to Jenny and just talk about you work with a large, diverse population of newcomers, and I'm just wondering, how do you ensure that the information that you're sharing on your platforms are accurate, current, and culturally relevant across all those populations?
Yeah, great question, and a huge component to building and maintaining trust with the newcomers who rely on us for the information. So important. So accuracy and cultural relevancy are big pieces of the team. With accuracy, we really look at fact checking anything that we're posting. We do a lot of that internally. We work with subject matter experts, making sure we're following updates on policy, any program eligibility changes, things of that nature. The cultural relevancy we look at in a lot of different ways, but we make sure that the information is tailored to and with and for newcomers. so that, we try not to use any unnecessary academic jargon, industry jargon, make sure it's easy to digest, similar to what April was saying, in language. So it's translated and/or the voiceover is in the language of the newcomer. And also that the content reflects the everyday experiences of newcomers as well. So messages we're getting or comments that we're getting about certain topics, want to make sure that that's incorporated culturally as well.
Thank you, Jenny. Ramel, how do you build and maintain trust with a community that may be wary of digital services in general or things that are linked to government services?
Yeah, I think especially during this time where we are sort of in this administration that has created a lot of fear, where people don't want to share their information, they don't want to, give a lot of details. We have really harnessed the collaborations with community organizations that are doing the work on the ground level. Every other week, we show up to a resource fair and introduce ourselves, because at the end of the day, just like I like to know people in person, the people giving us their information and their needs, they also want to get to know us in person, so that every time they use our chat, they know who they're talking to, right? And it's very rewarding because it gets to the point where they know who you are and they call you by the name whenever they send us a message saying like, hey, Ramel, I met you at this location. You told me about this information and I want to access it now. And I think the fact that we also remember their names and recognize the fact that we met them there and say like, hey, you're right, here's the information that I promised you. That also allows them to hold us accountable. And if people can hold us accountable, that creates trust because we're really meeting the needs that they're providing to us. At the same time, even though it is a limitation now where people don't want to be out there as often, it is also an opportunity for us to invent new ways to engage with people, right? And we have been doing webinars via Instagram Live and also Zoom, where people can join from the comfort of their home and really ask us questions. Again, my face is there, my name is there, and we're trying to provide information, but also meet them wherever they feel comfortable. Not just when things are hot, though, right? It has to be at all the time. And one of the things that we're very proud of and documented is that if they send us a message, we're going to answer, whether it is with information that we do have or the information of an organization that can meet their needs. And I think that builds more trust because we're not there just to extract, something that is hot or something that we want to publish. We're there to serve their needs, and over time, organically, that also grows with the trust that they share with other people.
Makes sense. Thanks, Ramel. April, I know that Alma is still under development, but just generally speaking about Apprendia, and I know it utilizes platforms like WhatsApp, like SMS messaging, like a lot of the platforms we've talked about. How does that approach help to overcome barriers like limited internet access or digital literacy in general, and multiple language speaking?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I do want to acknowledge that the environment we work in is that there is a digital divide. But something that's really important to us when we begin any project is really going to the clients and asking them, what are they using? How are you using it? Do you have the access? And a lot of our clients right now are saying they use WhatsApp because WhatsApp is end-to-end encryption, and it's their way to communicate also with their family members in other countries. And the content that we have, like I said, are snackable content. It's not complicated. You're not downloading a PDF. You can if you want, if it's a step-by-step of how to fill out your Social Security card. But what Alma will do is take you through that step-by-step. And if you and we understand that the bot isn't going to replace a caseworker. So if they get stuck, we have two great features that I'm really excited about that's unique to this one is that you can either call the virtual hotline, it instantly pops up, or in real time, you can set an appointment with a caseworker. So then you have an appointment at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning to be able to get your questions answered and to be able to go to your local nearest Social Security office to apply in person or online. And then it also includes geolocation, where clients can just type in their zip code and be like, where can I find X, Y, and Z right away? And we want to make it easy for them. And it's just, and your other question was about languages and stuff. And the languages were determined based on the resettlements team of how many users come through their lines and what languages are they asking for. And that's how we were able to determine those 4 languages.
Great. Thank you. Jenny, let's talk about data. I know you've collected a lot of data over time, and I'm just curious what kind of lessons you've learned about user habits or preferences in what you're seeing.
Yeah, good question. I think our program has seen a lot of, we've seen a lot of engagement on specific posts and specific content. And we also see an increase in questions when we do post particular content. So going back a little bit of what I was saying before in making sure that the content's reflecting everyday experiences and the types of questions that people are asking, we can see when we post something that is quite popular around updates on parole or immigration status. We get a lot more engagement on social media. We get a lot more visits on a web page. And likewise, if the content reflects the everyday experiences, like we had this really great idea, the team had a really great idea to highlight cultural idioms within the U.S. So something like, I'm feeling under the weather doesn't always translate really well. And so the team had this great idea of highlighting these different cultural idioms. What does it mean? How can it impact them, or where are they going to hear it in school or in a workplace? And having those everyday pieces highlighted, we can then see the data that people are engaging more and they're interested more, and then it sparks more conversation around that.
Makes sense. Thanks. Rommel, I know that Documented is sort of implemented in partnership with a lot of different entities. So if you could tell us a little bit more about the role of local contributors and partners and what their role is in shaping content in Documented.
Yeah, I think going back into, speaking culture, right, like beyond speaking language, I think these organizations really know how to address the needs of the communities they serve. And a lot of the times when we include those communities in our service map, which is this interactive map where you can look for organizations and other services, they really want their services to be reflected correctly. So they reach out to us, but at the same time, we're always searching for them, saying like, hey, are you offering new services? What kind of services are you offering now? What kind of communities are you serving now, right? Because it changes also with funding as things happen. So we're always sort of, being up to date. The same thing with governmental agencies, for example, right? Like yesterday, Roosevelt Hotel closed, which used to be this access point for a lot of asylum seekers coming in. So the first thing we did is we sent them an email saying hey, where do we send people now if they want to access a shelter, for example? So those things really this almost like a dance, I would say a constant dialogue with the organizations and the agencies to really see what they're providing and at the same time what they're not providing, right? Because we don't want to send someone to an organization and then just to be told that they're not giving those services anymore, right? Because at the same time, again, if they can hold us accountable, they're going to hold us accountable. So we have to be always up to date as well.
Thank you. April, I know that Apprendi has been rolled out in overseas contexts in that education space that you talked about. And just wondering what kind of lessons you've learned from the implementation that has come and how that's going to influence as you develop Alma.
We've learned a lot. The one thing that's great about the Airbell Impact Lab is that we have a lot of specialized staff members who oversee and help us with behavioral insights, user-centered design, best use resources, et cetera. So we're able to pull from these experts to further help us build a chatbot that is contextual but also meets the needs of the clients. For example, we've tested in Afghanistan just a prototype to better understand how we can reach really rural areas, teachers who just don't have access. And what we've learned from that is that SMS is the way to go, but also they don't have the funds to be able to constantly check. So we had to like lower the bandwidth or the file size of an image, or maybe we don't use images and we just use audio as a way to get them information without using too much of their internet connectivity. And in another part where in Nigeria, where we're going to be piloting with the local government this fall, so it's really exciting, and we're working in the Bay States, and we're working with our teachers there. They love the nudges. They love that the bot reminds them, hey, you are just halfway through this learning journey on classroom management. Let's finish it. Let's get it done. And then at the end, you're going to get like a point. You know, you get graded, and they're constantly trying to always achieve like a 100%, because that's motivating to them. They're learning, but they're also applying those practices in the classroom. So all these little prototypes and the pilot that's happening that we've done around the world, we are bringing it to here because they're also the same use cases in terms of how a Venezuelan migrant may use their phone here and what kind of nudges they would like. I don't know if they would want to be reminded all the time about having to maybe fill out their SNAP vouchers, or but we can always send very gentle reminders of saying, one thing that we're implementing is sending a gentle reminder 48 to 72 hours and be like, have you filled out your SNAP benefits? This is really important because it can help supply you and your family with food, and it is a public benefit to you. And we hope that they will follow through. And if not, you know, there are other, they can set their own reminders too. So there is self-agency, which is something that with Alma we want to be able to get with our newcomers, is to have that agency to find the information and to really be proactive in how you navigate the very complex U.S. system. I think my mom told me that her refugee settlement person that was helping would like call her up every day and be like, you really need to fill out this form to be able to get housing. But what we found out was that my mom just couldn't read English. So then they came over and they helped her fill out the form. So like the bot isn't going to do everything, but there's always a human also on the other side.
Great. Thank you. We're going to do a lightning round for this last question because I want to make sure that there's plenty of time for audience Q&A. Jenny, again, on data and feedback, I know you're collecting a lot of feedback as well. Can you share maybe one example of how you have leveraged feedback from users and how that may have shaped what Settle In does or how it functions?
Definitely. I'll try to be lightning fast. I would say that our users are not shy. We definitely get some really great feedback. I know one specific example from a few years ago, we were getting a lot of questions around car ownership, driver's licensing, so we had put out a number of articles and resources on how to obtain a driver's license, but also some of the budget and safety implications of like ownership, owning a car, and what that might look like. So that is one lightning fast example.
Thank you for that. Ramel, could you tell us a little bit about lessons you may have learned about misinformation and disinformation that's out there and how Documented responds to that?
Yeah, one of the things that I learned like very early on in my career is that information is very, very powerful, right? Because it often can dictate an action that a person can take, and the result could be negative or positive. And we have been getting a lot of misinformation, questions nowadays. And what we try to do is sort of team up with organizations that are serving the communities and that can provide us with their expertise on how to handle this type of misinformation, right? And what we do is we create guides and explainers that really addresses, their questions. Like, what if someone contacted me from one, from a WhatsApp number claiming that it's USCIS, and we all know USCIS doesn't. They rather not contact you to begin with, right? But I think really telling people like that this happens, also like not making them feel guilty, because we want more people to come forward and report these cases, right? But it's also this big stigma because they don't want to feel that they were being taken advantage of for a certain reason. So aside from the explainers and also the just responding to their fact checking their questions that they send us, we have been really doing webinars. We did one recently with the Envision Freedom Fund about this very intricate scam that was masquerading as an immigration court judge. And in this case, this person had been attending hearings online for 6 months, thinking that he was winning an asylum case, when in reality, his real case was being denied at the courts. So the impact is very, very big. And therefore, we try to, again, empower people so that they know how to follow their case, so that they know how to check if their case is actually in the courts. And at the same time, even if they have a real lawyer, I know we use real lawyer nowadays, but if they have a real lawyer, right, like we still want them to follow their case by saying like, okay, you're telling me that this is taking this amount of time, but USCIS on the website is saying this. And I think, that's where we can come in and using our journalistic backgrounds as well, just to like really fact check and provide actionable information there.
Sniff it out. Good. And April, I want to go ask you something similar to what I asked Jenny about just adaptation and feedback, and wondering if you could share an example of a time that Aprendia adjusted its approach or its content based on a specific cultural or emergency context.
Yeah, I mean, the first one that comes to mind is Afghanistan. We did it in Dari and Pashto and audio, and something that, as an American, we write from left to right, and they were like, it's not right justified. Those are the simple cultural, contextual things that I, as someone who is based here in New York, was not able to, I didn't pick that up really quickly, and I admit that. But we had the local educators, we had the teachers there who we're talking with day in and day out and asking them for their feedback and their input. So that's just like a very simple thing that you would think you would get, And then for Alma, I was working through the content with our resettlement team, and I was like, I would describe it this way, and they're like, too technical. Let's really get it down to like a second or third grade level because these people, it's so new to them that there's just some things. And so we've had to really look at how we write the content, and especially through the linear learning journey on a specific topic to ensure that it meets the literacy level of our clients. So,
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, we've got, I think, 6 minutes or so for audience Q&A. Is someone going to do? Thanks, Emma.
Thanks. Okay. Yeah, I can just talk loud. I'm curious, because I know a lot about documented.info and what we do here in New York and some of what Ramel shared. But for both of you who are working with larger populations across the country, across the world, how are you dealing with the fact that there's very specific local information? Like Ramel was saying, some people say they offer services, but then they don't offer services anymore. Right now we're seeing laws that say one thing and then enforcement that looks maybe different the next day. How are you dealing with those issues, especially when trust with communities is like the currency?
I can start with that. I would say that a lot of the information that we provide, we do try to have it so that it does cover the entire nation. And when we are providing localized information, we cross-check that before we post it. But I would also say that we do try and partner with local information services such as Documented. So if someone is asking for very hyper-localized information about New York City, and we're able to provide more generalized national information, perhaps regional resources and what we know, if the answer is still a little bit more complicated or more nuanced, we would certainly refer them over to local partners such as Documented. Yeah, good question.
Anything to add?
I agree with her 100%.
Validation.
I'm really curious for those of you that offer, I mean, it sounds like all the platforms have both multilinguality and the ability to ask questions to a real human being. I'm really curious just about your staff structures, how that works. Like, do you have somebody monitoring the chat or the platforms 24/7, 9 to 5? Do you have somebody whose first language? Any of those details, I'm just fascinated.
Yeah, and maybe speak to the sort of response time average kind of.
We do have 5 moderators, 2 in Spanish because that's most of the message that we get. Haitian Creole, French, and English. Response time is usually within like an hour. And we also, we're also human beings, so we do have like a nice balance where we can answer, the questions. But at the same time, the website can provide the answers if they're not like very immediate needs, where people can, navigate whatever resource they're looking for. And like, the panelists mentioned before, cultural competence is really, really important, right? Like, there's a difference when someone knows that the distinction between, guagua, meaning a bus, and also a kid, right? Like, knowing those ins and outs of someone's culture can really make a difference. And I think for that reason, like, the human in the loop is always going to be necessary, even though technology can help us, automate a lot of things that may take time.
Yeah, really good question. I think the structure is similar. I think, the Settle-In program is really great because folks are able to access information independently on the website and on social media. But we do have 6 individuals who have the linguistic and cultural background where they're able to monitor messages. We're not an emergency hotline by any means or crisis type of services. So the response time is usually within hours, definitely within a business day, and it's business hours, so Monday through Friday. And folks can then ask more nuanced or back and forth questions to the digital community liaisons that way.
I'm being told there's time for only one more question. Who's the lucky person?
Give a caveat as well. Listen deeply for the game. There's been some clues that were just given for how you can win the game.
Interesting. Mysterious. I'm going to give it to you.
Hi, thank you. I appreciated the question you asked about differences in local resources. Coming from Iowa and serving parts of very rural states, especially part of a very rural red state, how do resources, especially these national resources, navigate the safety concerns that come with accessing different resources or that may come with different cultural communities that are within the U.S., right? We've talked a lot about differences in culture and differences in resources of our clients, but there's also a very vast diversity of culture, resource, and accessibility for the communities that our clients are living in. So how do you navigate that, especially safety?
Nobody wants to touch that.
Sorry.
Such a good question. The safety of the people who are messaging us and who are accessing the information is so important. I would say that a lot of the information that we provide, we make sure, in terms of safety, we make sure that they know what information is available to them, and any local community resources that are available, but also, for example, if they're asking for something as sensitive as legal advice, we certainly would ensure that they've got resources to pro bono or low bono type of information. I would say at the very hyper localized, we would probably rely on some of our community partners to encourage some more of the community education pieces. Also very open to partnering to look at more.
And I'll just add, like, on a local level, I think, sorry, I just lost my train because I got confused looking at Sarah, you confused me. So I'll agree with you.
Well, I mean, and for safety reasons, and our clients' safety is our utmost priority at the IRC and the work that we do. And we do not collect personal identifiable information. That is right at the beginning of the journey. Do not share any information. And if you do, it will be scrubbed. It's our numbers are hashed. It's all anonymous, so no one can have contact. And we do work with our local partners. And if Alma is bought, and the team that works with Alma, the caseworkers are working with documented newcomers. So if you are undocumented and you're using this chat bot, to find information, and you say, because we do have escalation measures too, I think I'm going to be deported. We will send them to a local partner and say, we don't serve that population. Please contact our local partner on how to get more information.
Just some quick takeaways from that. We have these for every one of our panels, but we actually have time to go through them for this one. So we're going to just kind of take a second to think about what the goals of the panel were and what we're taking away. That access to information can help newcomers navigate really complex systems. And that despite language differences or digital gaps, it's still an amazing tool. And then technology, when used thoughtfully, can bridge those gaps. Trust builds engagement. Ramel talked about that. Accountability actually equals more trust and knowing those clients. When communities trust the source of that information, they're more likely to engage with the services, follow guidance, and then market for you, share those resources in their communities. And word of mouth, we all know, is the most important. And then cultural and contextual relevance matters. Information must be not only accurate, but also tailored to the linguistic, cultural, and situational realities of the people receiving it. And that goes right back to how we design. We have to know that to be able to create that. So great job. Thanks.